Hello and welcome to a new review from not only one of my favorite car manufacturers, but specifically one of my favorite cars from them. But first, there's something important to do. Liam, if you want to come with me. Come on. Welcome to the interior of the 570S. This car has been a bedroom wall poster car for me pretty much since it came out, even more than the 720S and the predecessor, the 650S. This car, to me, is the prettiest car McLaren makes. It is just fantastic looking from every single angle. So, quick rundown on this car. This car has 562 horsepower that goes right to the rear wheels through a 7-speed automatic gearbox. None of that really matters though. What does matter is how it drives on regular roads, which I'm happy to report it drives fantastic. Holy shit! Brakes are something that not a lot of people boast about when they're talking about their car. But this car has some of the best brakes I think I've ever felt. It has just the right amount of feel where you feel like you're pushing down and you feel it tighten up, and you feel like you're digging your heel into the road, and it's such a nice feeling. It just gives you that feedback you need, especially if you are taking this on a track. It gives you the feedback you need to go into a corner and just know that you put the right amount where you don't over or under brake. It feels fantastic. McLaren has some of the best brakes in the auto industry, and I feel like a lot of people just don't talk about them enough. It's really one of the best points of this car. Not many cars can manage to make the brakes feel that good. Even the Mercedes we drove a few weeks ago, it makes that car's brakes feel like you're just smashing two boulders straight into the rotor. The steering is very precise, and you feel like it's made for a sports car. It doesn't feel like a GT car, which I think is really good for this car. It's not lazy, but it does jump around a little bit on the road, which if you're not paying attention, could be a little bit dangerous. But when you are driving it on a track or those twisty roads, you want that feeling, you want that resistance, you want it to feel like it's pulling you. And it really does have that. It doesn't feel lazy, it doesn't feel slow. It feels like you point it and it goes. The suspension on this car is fantastic. It's soft enough where it doesn't shake your spine out of the top of your head every time you hit a bump, but it's also not too soft where you feel like your car's on stilts. If you take a turn in this car too late, you're going far too fast, you don't feel like this car is gonna get too squirrely. The computers work it out for you. The suspension works it all out for you. That combined with the torque vectoring from this differential makes it extremely safe and driver friendly. If you do take a corner going way too fast, as a lot of people do in these cars, it'll save you. The best part of it all, though, is that incredible V8 engine. That 3.8 liter twin turbo V8 from McLaren is one of the best engines that is being made right now. It just feels buttery smooth, and the power delivery is so satisfying. There is turbo lag, don't get me wrong. You put your foot down and you feel it. It takes a second before it's going. But it's a nice feeling, because when it does kick in, when you do get to that point, that push in the back, that shove forward, just feels absolutely incredible. It's not as responsive as a naturally aspirated engine or even that 4-liter Mercedes V8, but that feeling and that power delivery that it has is just so well done. McLaren has just made it such a satisfying way. They haven't fully tamed the turbo lag, but they've made it so it feels satisfying. Like you put your foot down and then it just goes. You just get wallops of power straight up to the 8,000 RPM redline. It's such an incredible feeling. I think an odd point about this engine though is I've known the displacement of it for a very long time because 3.8 liters also happens to be the amount of water that is flushed through most North American urinals. Completely irrelevant point, but I thought I'd share that with you guys. Another big complaint about turbocharged engines is that at the top end of the rev range, they do tend to feel a little bit wheezy, like they could have probably let it cut off at 6,000 RPM instead of 8. But this car, it doesn't do that. It just keeps pulling. Holy shit. These paddle shifters are also some of the best in the industry. They're like rocking paddles where you could press it or pull it depending on what you want to do. So if you only want to use one hand to shift, that's an option. You don't need to use both hands. You don't need to focus both hands to that. If you want to steer and use one to shift while you're on a track, you're able to do that and it's comfortable and usable. It's a really good idea and I'm surprised more automakers aren't doing it. McLaren is known for a lot of things. Incredibly pretty cars, engineered down to a T where they're just fantastic at everything they're supposed to do. Catching on fire. Lots of good things they're known for. Yeah, there is a bit of electronic issues that McLaren is known for that do cause these to spontaneously combust. Especially the McLaren Senna, which is not great. The issues unfortunately don't end there. The infotainment screen is vertical, much like a phone, which I get the idea behind it. We use our phones every day, we're comfortable and familiar with them. But there's a reason we like to use the big horizontal screens for our music and navigation, so we don't have to look at our phone. Why would we want to use a bigger, slower phone in the car? The exhaust sound, well, it's there. That's about all I have to say about that. The exhaust doesn't make a good sound. It just makes a lot of sound. The lack of exciting sound kind of brings me to my next point with this car. And I am going to be critical of it for a minute. This car is a lot like a very stern and hard-ass CEO. This car is here to do one thing and one thing only. It is here to be the best at what it's supposed to do. It's stone-faced. It's going to be better than everyone else. It's dressed better than everyone else. And it's just there to be a boss and to show everyone else that I'm better than you. So when you originally get in this car, because of that fact, it almost feels a little bit soulless. But if you go out to a bar on a Friday night and you take your CEO friend and you give them a little bit too much to drink, they will misbehave. And so will this car. If you push this car, it will stick its tail out. It will spin its tires. It will become an absolute animal. It will go to the bar with you and it will sing Bohemian Rhapsody. It will do karaoke with you. From the outside, this car seems so put together, and when you let it misbehave, it becomes a completely different dynamic. It's just an absolute monster. You need to sell your family's kidneys and buy one of these. They are incredible. They always tell you not to meet your heroes. But man, oh man, this car has not disappointed. It has not disappointed one bit. I know a lot of people people are nervous about the next generation of this McLaren. They're ditching the V8 and they're putting in a hybrid V6. But I can't understand where the anger is coming from. Right now, the V8 in this car, it really doesn't make that good of a sound. It really doesn't have that much of a V8 character to it. It's just an incredibly impressive machine. I understand with those big old 6.2 liter Mercedes engines why people were upset when they got rid of those. They were so soulful and they had that big baritone sing. But this really doesn't. The V6 is just going to make this car more efficient, faster, more impressive, lighter, and better in almost every single way. This should be a welcome thing. This V8 is fantastic. It's so good, but it's McLaren. We should trust what they're doing. They've managed to make everything they've ever done almost the best out of the entire industry. They're not going to fuck up the V6. I think we need to have some faith and let them do their thing. And that kind of brings me to the next point of this. McLaren has only been making these road cars again for about 10 years. They came back with the 12C in 2011, and that took the market by storm. It was unbelievable. They took Ferrari, they took Porsche, they took Lamborghini, they took Audi and Mercedes, and they just beat the shit out of them. Everybody had their designated market, their specific buyers. They had their own fan bases. And then McLaren came along and just messed it all up. And that's the best thing they could have done for the industry. Everything felt so stale for a little bit. There was no competition. Everybody had their own markets. There was nothing new. There was no new guy that everybody had to look up to. There was no new cool guy. Everybody was these old established brands. And McLaren came along and they just said, nah, fuck you. We're the best now. Only 3 years after the 12C, they already came out with the P1. They were already in hypercar territory. They were already in the likes of Koenigsegg, the LaFerrari, the Porsche 918. They were already competing with that, and they did a fantastic job of it. When there's competition, they battle, and we get to watch, and we get to reap the spoils of these incredibly designed machines. Competition is great for all of us. It's good for us as consumers, as car enthusiasts, as people who like to watch these cars come out, who may not be able to buy them, but we can still see other people driving them. We still get to watch these supercar spotters see these insane things like the McLaren Senna driving around. The competition that it breeds, that insane engineering, is absolutely amazing. And although McLaren may not be the main cause of this new generation of cars, they certainly didn't hurt the progress of it. I love McLaren. They are not a perfect brand by any means. There's a ton of issues they really do need to work out in the future. But I'm excited to watch what happens, and I think the next 10 years of McLaren's will be some of the most exciting road cars to ever come out. And I'm excited to see what they do. Thank you, McLaren, for making this car, and thank you, McLaren, for letting us watch.